There we go. I have another recording going on another machine here. Well, I might as well show it to you since we're going, and then we'll jump back to the calls real quick. Here, I'm back on my desktop. Where is I got a lot of stuff going on. Look at all these things. It was this machine. You're going to see this in just a moment. So I've got another machine that's recording audio because I had those audio hiccups last month, and I wanted to be sure that I'm just using GarageBand, which is a simple audio recording system, to be able to grab those things, and it's just capturing audio on that system. Boy, that voice is sounding good now. I've got things that I can use. I've been trying to use for this. This is a spray. I've got to. I stole the idea from this. There is, I think I talked about this last month. Now I have to find it so I don't tell you the wrong thing. I rarely watch any video or television or anything. I don't watch sports. I spend a lot of my time building these videos. I enjoy doing that, and it's actually a viable business too. So the more videos I make, the more viable the business is. So I'm encouraged to do that. It's not a bad thing that I don't spend time watching videos and doing sports. It's just my gig. I think everybody can appreciate that. On Netflix, though, I saw, let's see, you're not seeing me log into Netflix right now. Just to make sure you don't see this, but I do have downtime, so I do watch things from time to time. There was now I'm a child of the 80s, okay? So I'm an old guy. And one of the biggest groups of the 80s was Journey. So I was flipping around Netflix, and I watch a lot of documentaries when I do watch things, and we came across one called Don't Stop Believin', where this guy Arnell was on YouTube. Journey needed a singer. He could sing. They grabbed him from the Philippines, and he became the new frontman, the new singer for Journey. Journey, a group, by the way, that still makes millions of dollars every year in touring. So it was quite a change for him. But it was interesting the things he had to go through, because if you remember those songs, these are powerful songs. You got to use a lot of your voice. And I have, they showed all of the things that he uses for his voice. And that obviously is something that's near and dear to my heart, because I talk a lot to be able to do this. And I didn't give you a CE code on this time. Thank you for reminding me. You can send me a list of all of the questions, but they showed a list of all the things he used to keep his voice going. And so this is something called Entertainer Secret, which is a honey apple flavor that keeps your voice, your throat, keeps it from drying out. So that's one of the things that I was kind of cutting the video off through the study group today. I'm trying to find the screen I had up, and you would see me disappear so I could step back and spray some of this into the back of my throat. And it actually worked very well to do all of this. It's very pleased. So the credit for today's live study group, if you take the questions that came up on the screen, I asked at least one question on the screen. There was two questions I think I asked up on the screen. You send me what those questions are in an email, and you will get credit. I will send you certification for watching the study group. Does that work for you, Jonathan? Tell me if that works. You may have to go back and skim those real quick. I think I mentioned some of that. You can also, since you're now watching this afterwards, you can optionally send me the secret keyword of Journey, and I will also give you credits. There's a quick way for you to go about doing that by going through those pieces too. So you don't have to look through all those pieces. Just send me an email. Go to the top of the Professor Messer website where it says Contact Us. Put your email address in there. Send me the secret code of Journey, and I will give you credit for watching the study group today. See how easy that was? Okay. There is, we still have that 661 area code. I'm going to go back to you, caller, just to see if you're there. Are you there, caller?
Hello.
Hey, there you are. We finally caught you.
Hey, how you doing this morning,
Hey,
Professor?
doing good. What's your name?
Anthony.
Hey, Anthony. Have you called before?
Yes, I have.
I remember the voice. How are you, sir?
I'm fine this morning, and you?
Doing very good. What can we do for you today?
I have a couple of questions. My first question is the support for Windows XP is going to stop in April.
Yep.
How do I change the data from my Windows XP, install Windows 7, and still be able to use the same data from Windows XP?
Yes, because as you are probably painfully aware, there is not an upgrade path, an in-place upgrade path to simply slide in a Windows 7 installation disk and have it migrate everything on that system from Windows XP to Windows 7. You can't do it. There's no way. You have to go to Vista and then to 7 if that's how you're going to do it. My recommendation to you then, there's a couple of ways. Some people will say, dude, just start fresh. Just install a fresh Windows 7 and just bring everything over. But I got to tell you, if I tried to do that on my systems, you know how painful that would be for me? It would be awful. The number of applications I have, the amount of data that I have, and I don't know exactly what's where anymore. That becomes a bit of a challenge. So I think one of the easiest ways to do this, and it works really quite well, is the Windows migration tool. And I did this on a study group very recently. It's the one that's easiest to use on Windows is called the Windows Easy Transfer. And it's quite simple because it will take everything except your apps. So it takes your, in fact, I have a screen of this. Let's flip over this. It takes your user accounts, your documents, your music, your pictures, your email, your internet favorites, your videos, and more. And it puts them all into a file, which then you can save off to an external drive or transfer across the network to a set of drives. And then you go into Windows 7 and have it load this file up from Windows XP. And it really does migrate it quite nicely. In a study group, I want to say it was a couple of study groups ago, and I'll have to go back and look at this. I did a migration live on the study group. So I went through Windows XP. I went through the saving of the Easy Transfer. In my case, I had two systems up and running at one time. So I had a Windows XP system and a Windows 7 in two virtual systems running on my desktop. And I just had the Windows XP in real time migrate those over to Windows 7. But you could optionally save it as it says here, use a cable between two systems, stick it on a network, or in your case, if it's going to be exactly the same piece of hardware, save it out to an external hard disk or a USB flash drive so that then you can load Windows 7 and then import everything from that Windows Easy Transfer.
Okay.
What it won't do for you, however, is it will not move over your applications. So you have to figure out what applications you're running in Windows XP, install those into Windows 7, and then perform your Windows Easy Transfer into Windows 7. That's a much cleaner way to do it, but it means that you've got to go and get all of those Windows applications that hopefully you still have disks for or you know where to download it from. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes to find those. But you load those up on your Windows 7, you do the Windows Easy Transfer, and it really does keep all your settings. It works quite nicely. Early versions of this didn't work so well, but it's really working quite nicely now. And if you're going to another operating system, you'd like to save it, that's one way to do it. The other recommendation I'll give you, of course, is make sure that you back up everything from Windows XP into a normal backup somewhere. Windows Easy Transfer does not back up your whole system. So if you went to Windows 7 and you did the Windows Easy Transfer and then something didn't work right, you'd need a way to go back. And so making a separate Windows backup or use a third-party application to do an image backup of your system is what I really recommend. Image backups are so simple. You can image all of XP, stick the image somewhere, then you can rip your machine to pieces. And if you ever want to go back to XP, you click one button, it just re-images the whole thing instantly.
Okay, now if I want, on my machine here, it doesn't have where you can go into tools and make a backup disk.
Right.
How do you do that if you don't have the backup application on your machine.
If it in Windows XP, there is a backup utility that will work. It is in, if you may not have it installed. I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think the Windows Home version didn't install the backup, something like this. I'm trying to remember back to my Windows XP days. Microsoft has an installation, a process to how to use the Windows backup utility to back it up in Windows XP. And they even say, yeah, you're going to need to install this. You're going to need your Windows XP CD. You're going to need to locate this drive. You're going to need to double click an MSI file. Then you can finally install the backup program. I think you will be better off using a separate backup application, a third-party backup application, to be able to do that.
A hard drive?
An external hard drive and an imaging program. And there was one imaging program somebody mentioned in the chat room a couple of study groups ago. And I'm trying to remember which one it was. It was open source, and it was one you boot from a DVD, a CD, or USB drive, and it just imaged your whole system. And I'll have to find that exact one. I just don't remember what the name is off the top of my head, but I will find it. It was free, which is why I'm mentioning that.
Okay.
Wikipedia has a list of a bunch of drive imaging apps. They call it disk cloning software, and it says whether it's free software or not. I'm going to flip. Clonezilla is the one I've seen people use before. I've used it before. It's not the easiest thing in the world to use, but it does work. And what's another one people have used? You probably get people in the chat room giving you some options as well. Part Image, I think I have used, but it was really more for Linux. You're wanting Windows XP.
Macrium?
I know Acronis is a commercial where you have to pay for it. Ghost is one that's no longer developed by Symantec, but it also was one that costs money. I'm thinking of free ones, and Clonezilla is the one that I have used before, and it does work, and I've used it on my systems.
Okay.
So there's some options at least for you.
Yeah, because I know that XP is not going to be supported next month, and I'm trying to figure out how to keep all the information that I have and also have Windows 7 where I can function with the Windows 7.
Yeah, the Windows XP isn't going to stop. So it's not like it's not going to work anymore, but you're absolutely correct. You will not be getting updated security patches. And in my mind, that probably is more important than just having the operating system work. Because that's a big thing. You don't want to be caught without security patches. Well, that's exciting. That'll be a nice project. And I want to say it was 2 or 3 study groups ago, I did a migration live. You may want to look through that and see how it's done too.
Migration log?
I did a Windows Easy Transfer. Well, maybe I can find it real quick and know A+ study group, Windows Easy Transfer. I don't know if I put it in I did in January, I did a Windows Easy Transfer demonstration. So there you go. The January 2014 study group.
January 24. Okay.
And
I'll look at that later on today.
I'll put the link in the chat room for that January study group. January study group. There we go. So now you have the video. You can go straight to YouTube and watch that one.
Okay. Also, too, I've been studying the, what do you call it, the CompTIA A+, my mind is jumbled this morning. The study course for the 801.
Okay.
And I've noticed that I guess I've been studying for about almost a year now, and both 801 and 802. And
okay.
It's once you start going over it, you see there's a lot of stuff that you've already done.
Yes.
When you start going over the list there.
And a lot of people find there is a bit of overlap in the 801 and the 802, especially in the troubleshooting section.
Correct.
Some places will say, and I've heard some authors of books say, you should just take both exams at the same time. Why would you just take one exam and then go back later and take the other one because there's so much overlap? But I personally don't agree with that because the 801 exam has no operating system information in it at all, really. There's no There's no command lines. There's no Windows information. There's networking, and there's mobile, but there's no OS. 802 has a ton of operating system information. You know, if you're comfortable with all of that content, sure, take them both at the same time. But if this is your first time taking an exam, really just study the 801, get it down cold, take that certification, and then later on you can go in and take the 802 after you've now studied the additional content. But the troubleshooting section, there will be a little bit of overlap, I would agree.
Yeah, my experience from taking the fundamentals, Strata.
Yes.
When I went in for the exam, the first time I didn't pass it because I wasn't prepared really, and the questions are so different.
Yes, they are.
What you're studying, and once you get there and you're sitting down taking the test, that the second time I passed it.
For those
but
folks
it's not easy.
The folks that aren't familiar, the Strata Egg series of exam is an IT fundamentals series of exams. It's sort of the precursor to the A+ certification. In the United States, it's not something that you see a lot of people asking about for whatever reason. It's just something that not a lot of people are asking for, but it is a very good primer prior to taking the A+ certification. If you're in the United Kingdom, then you'll find a lot of more employers focus on Strata as a first step and then the A+. But for whatever reason, it's more of a regional thing that people focus on. If you notice, also Microsoft has their own series of entry-level certifications. And even other companies like Cisco have their own, and even VMware have their own entry levels into that. So I think what we're starting to see is more manufacturers and testing services are starting with really basics, because there's so many new people getting into technology before you even get into what most people would consider to be the entry level, sort of like the primer and then the entry level.
Correct. I heard you speaking about, people coming out of music. That's what I played music most of my life.
Oh, really?
And, I had to decide to do a change because I started having children.
Yep.
And if you're not making $1 million by a certain age, then you need to change.
Is that how it works? Now we know the secret. Now we know where you should set the bar. The one I was thinking of is someone who sent me an email recently. He was on my site a couple of years ago studying for his, I want to say it was the Network Plus, and he was in Hollywood and he was doing orchestration for movies. So, that's some interesting work there. But the problem is that movie industry was changing and using a lot more stock
computers.
They're using computers. Everything's
software
on disk. It's all stock stuff now. They've got huge, enormous libraries. They don't need live people making music anymore. And you'll notice if you watch a lot of trailers, you notice the music on some of these trailers is exactly the same. So that's what he was finding. So they were firing people and laying them off in his industry. He says, I got to make a change. He studied his networking piece, got his Network Plus. He went on to do Cisco stuff, and he emailed me and said, I'm now working in Vegas. I'm with a big company. We're doing a lot of routing and switching. I'm configuring wide area network links with BGP dynamic routing, and we're doing EIGRP on the inside. I mean, he had it. He was on it.
That's the way to go.
That is the way to go. And in 2 years, he was able to pivot right out of that one type of career mode into another, and he just went right into the piece, full stream.
Well, just with my Strata certification, I work with Work Market Online.
Okay.
And they, they have different agencies that they work with, and they'll send you different assignments.
Right.
And it depends on where you live. And I've got about maybe 60 different companies that'll send me assignments now. And that's just from the Strata.
Right. Just by having that one certification, they're now booking you on calls.
Yeah.
Is that something that is paid by the call you go on, or is it paid by an hourly charge? How does that work?
It depends. There are times when you can ask them to kick up what they're going to pay you for the assignment, a flat fee.
Okay.
Sometimes you can't. You can pick whatever assignments you want to go on.
Nice.
If you have any discretions, you let them know before you go, and if there's a problem, they usually resolve it.
That's pretty good. So what is the name of that particular service?
It's called Work Market.
Work Market.
Yeah, workmarket.com.
Got it. So there's another opportunity.
I think in New York.
So there's a good way if you're looking to freelance, you've got your certifications, you want to know more about what you should be doing. Anthony is using this, and it seems to work for you. That's great.
Yeah, it's a good company to work for. I mean, they put the money in your bank account. You go out on your assignments.
I love it.
One of the assignments that I had not too long ago was on top of McDonald's roof out here in Bakersfield, realigning an antenna.
Are you serious?
I'm serious.
So they stuck you up there. You're trying to get the satellite dish synced in to the data stream.
Running, and then I had to go downstairs and get into their router to realign certain things that was in the router.
No kidding.
They paid me for the job, and I was happy.
That's great. I'm going to.
Yeah, if you put the time in what you're doing, this is a great course. I've been doing your stuff for about the last year and a half, and like I said, it's great.
That's fantastic.
Thank you for helping.
I'm going to sign up on that just to see what options might be available to go in my particular area. That's at workmarket.com. And
yeah.
It's a pretty, and they have both apps for an iPhone and for Android.
Yeah, they have for everything.
Nice.
If I'm in Bakersfield, which is a kind of a small city now, if I was in Los Angeles, San Francisco, where it's larger cities, then I would be working more.
Gotcha.
Because they have, different places. I've been into Denny's working on their computers and their TVs, replacing UPSs in clothing stores. I've been in Popeyes helping run cable and setting up the TVs for the displays.
Wow.
So once you start working for them, then you have other companies that will start inviting you to their companies.
Nice. By the way, you should also document these things for yourself. If anybody is doing something like this, like you just mentioned, 4 great stories of things you did. When you walk into a situation where you're going to apply for a position in technology, those are the types of stories the employer wants to know about. And those 4 things you just mentioned are pretty widely varied. Maybe the one connection between the two is there's a lot of food service, but at the end of the day, it's really remote site access. And each one of those things was very different. There's routing, there's satellite, non-terrestrial networking, there's inside the building video displays. There's all kinds of pieces with that. That's really valuable.
They have companies that will send you to different stores and you set up these displays to sell UPSs, and all you do is go on in, set up the router, and your gig is done.
You got to love that.
And I've done all that kind of different stuff.
And at the end of the day, that's a relatively simple process. They just need a warm body who knows technology, the basics of what you need to plug in to go into the place, put it in the rack, and plug things in. I work in network security, and plugging in a firewall is practically identical to plugging in a UPS. There's not much difference between the two. You plug in some power, you plug in a network connection, you're done.
Okay.
It's really everything after that's a little more difficult. But
I've gone to Albertson and run cables for their coupon printers.
Okay. They're rolling out new printers.
The only thing I have a problem with is, excuse me?
They're rolling out new printers. They need somebody to plug them in.
Yeah. The only thing I have a problem with right now is the rack and stack and learning to punch down and terminating the wires. That's one is process that I'm learning now.
That is an acquired process, I have to tell you. There is an old school certification exam called the CNX. They don't offer it anymore. It was back in the day. In fact, I got CNX certified in Ethernet, in token ring, in FDDI, and in network cabling. So just 2 of those. That goes back a number of years. I had to take the network cabling exam 3 times because I had never done cabling, but I wanted that certification. And I tried to grab as much cabling information, but for cabling, you really do have to sit there and do a punch down yourself. You really do have to sit there.
I've gone through quite a few Cat 5s.
I'm now much better at it, but I did go through quite a few modular connectors trying to get them wired properly and punched down and cut. And I feel your pain.
Oh yeah, but it's interesting work.
It is interesting work, and that's a great resource I think people should know about. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, and there's another one called Thumbtack also.
Okay.
Where you can put your resume there, and people will call you. And I do also translation. I speak Spanish as well as English.
Fabulous.
And I have that in Thumbtack, and I also do the computer repair through Thumbtack also.
Well, I think you may be able
Thumbtack is a good place.
to combine those two things together quite nicely.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, thank you for calling, Anthony, and thanks for those tips.
Thank you for helping me with this process of migration, because I got to get on this before I can't get a whole bunch of viruses in here and can't get them out.
Yeah, call us next month and let everybody know how that went.
Okay, I will.
Very good. Talk to you later.
You have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
There's a good tip with the freelancing. I think it's the biggest challenge when you get into freelancing things, that you're going to get taken. You don't want to get into something and then not get paid for it. If you go out I mentioned the Tech Nibble forums before. There's a lot of people that deal with those business problems. At that point, it's a business issue. It's not a technical problem. How do you get paid? How do you make sure you get paid? What do you do on the front end to make sure that the process will go smoothly all the way down to the point where you get paid? I hate reading the stories where people have gotten into a scenario where they've walked in, the person said, I need this fixed. You fix it, and they go, well, we didn't agree on a price, so I'm not going to give you anything, or here's $1. And it's true, you didn't agree on anything. There wasn't a written contract. In fact, you're setting yourself up for massive risk, because what if something happens to that person's computer? Who's responsible for it? You? Them? Did you cause the problem? Even if you didn't, you might be responsible. So the legal pieces are challenged with this as well. That's very useful to have there. Yeah, I think there were some great stories today. I agree with folks in the chat room that are saying that. I think it's an important part of what we're doing here. It's more than just technology. It's about making all of these things work. I am so pleased that my voice was able to hold out this long, but I think I have indeed come to the end of my capacity. I have one more thing I have to record today, so I'm going to save my voice a little bit more and do that as well. So I want to appreciate everybody for watching. It was a good after show this month as well. We almost went 2 hours this month. So again, I had more content I prepared. Now I feel like I'm in a place where I can just answer phones and hear stories from you and answer questions from the chat room. And it goes so much smoother when we do something like that. Before we finish up, we had one person sneak into the queue from the 312 area code. And are you there, caller?
Yes, hello.
Hello. Hi, what's your name?
Maurice, how are you?
Hello, Maurice. Thanks for calling. You just got in there at the end.
I did. In fact, this is my first time watching your show. I just got discovered your information. I forget. I was doing some research online, and I got linked to you because I myself am having a career change, and I'm very excited about it into technology. And I listened to a previous caller talked about going from music into technology,
Anthony, yes,
IT sector. Yeah, Anthony. And I could so empathize with that because I myself have been working in motion picture video production for almost 16, 17 years now.
Gotcha.
And talk about technology changing and putting us old guys out of basically business, the new cameras that come out, basically working for peanuts now with the advent of, social media, allowing even the average person to just take a video and shoot with their iPhone and upload. So, it's definitely a different era in the way we operate.
And it happened.
Business is done.
Happened really fast.
It really did. It really did. Because I was just telling a colleague of mine, we were discussing the 90s, the days of when we were, doing so much stuff and going broadcast. And now it's like, okay, what are you doing now? Well, we're just trying to find our next gig, and we're not trying to get pigeonholed to doing stuff for $200 to $500, budget brand. So,
wow.
And so now I am actually interested now in cybersecurity.
Oh, excellent.
IT. Yeah, thank you. And I understand that's what your focus or concentration is. And Okay, so I'm getting my first question here. I do have a sort of a light background. I myself work for an agency based out of Dallas, Texas, called A3 Solutions.
Yep. And
on occasion, they send me out, and I've been doing a lot of migration for different companies in the Chicagoland area. But I'm ready to take it to the next step.
Okay.
And I finally narrowed it down into the network. I'm sorry, the cybersecurity. And I want to know, is it necessary to obtain a 4-year degree to, basically get, be a good contender for employment in that area, or is just a certificate satisfactory enough to be as much of an asset to a company who'd be interested in your services?
Well, I get to go to a lot of different companies every week and talk to a lot of different companies every week. My day job, as it is, this Professor Messer thing is something I do after 5 o'clock and on the weekends. But during the day, I work for a security company, a network security company that has, it's a public company that has security products. And so I get the opportunity to walk into a lot of different environments, to talk to a lot of different security people, and to understand what they're trying to do. But I also understand where they came from, because I started on the help desk. I started delivering printer cables in South Florida, and eventually moved into a help desk at a corporation, and eventually moved into desktop, then into networking, and then finally into security. And I get to see the stories that they have as well with the security pieces, because you just don't generally start in security. There are certainly people who have very unique things that they know and that they can do. Generally, people who are jumping into a security role like that are really focusing on breaking out malware or doing applications and how they work with security. But almost everybody gets into security after being somewhere else and getting a foundation that they can then use in security. And I think most of the people I work with that are in large organizations in their security department, they are in small groups, state and local government in their security department, there are in small companies in their security, all started in really the networking and or the desktop side of things. Because once you understand how the operating system works, you can protect it better. Once you understand how the network works, you can protect people from using the network to get to places they shouldn't be getting. So it generally is one that is strong security people generally have a strong background in something else in technology. Because usually a lot of people think of security as you're doing penetration testing on the network. You're scanning systems and trying to find systems that you can break into. But the reality is very little of most security people's role is related to penetration testing. Most of the time, you are setting up networks that you can then plug in firewalls. You need intrusion detection, intrusion prevention devices. You need integrated authentication methodologies that will go to central databases like a Radius database or an LDAP-based database or Active Directory. Those might be using one-time passwords or token generators that you would have on an iPhone or a physical token generator. All of that information from the routers and the switches and the firewalls and the IPSs and your authentication systems and your wireless authentication, all of those logs have to go somewhere. So you have a big log consolidation system that was created via syslog. I mean, I just named like 7 or 8 different technologies just for security. Sure. So you have to know how all those plug in. You have to know how to maintain the operating system on the syslog consolidation server that has 10 terabytes of hard drive space on it. Now virtualization is obviously a concern. How do you protect against systems that are virtualized, that they never hit the physical world? They're all virtualized inside of a single physical box. Do you put virtual firewalls between all of those systems? You have to be knowledgeable with virtualization so that you can then apply the virtual firewall security into the virtualization world. So I don't want to make it sound like, oh, this is impossible. We're never going to be able to get into a security role, because generally you focus on one part of that. Most organizations have one person that does the syslog consolidation, one person that knows everything about the one-time password setup, one person that does the 802.1x for wireless authentication, one person that does firewalls, one person that does IPS. So if you can focus on learning as much as you can about the network and focus on learning one of those pieces or multiple pieces of that technology, you will have skills that you will be able to use for years and years and years and years. So that was a very long-winded answer to a very short question. But
that was perfect. That's perfect. No, I actually really appreciate that. So you say it just probably put a focus on an area, like say you said networking, and kind of understand the mechanics and the basics of that, and then sort of go from there.
I think networking is a great place to start because everything with security in these enterprise networks comes and goes from the network. So if you know how the network operates, it's for instance, go look at a large firewall manufacturer's website. They will have a demonstration of how that firewall works. They'll take you through a day in the life of using that firewall, and they'll give you concepts like, now let's create a firewall rule, and we'll start with this IP address subnet that we're going to put in a CIDR block notation, and we're going to limit by a certain port number, or these days apply a certain application to it. They also might connect IPsec encryption between two sites. Well, already you can start to hear some of the things that you learn in the Network Plus certification. So there's subnets, there's CIDR block notation, there is encryption and IPsec. That's what you need to know to get into security and have very strong background that you can use in security.
I see. And finally, I know we're wrapping this up here. What would you recommend for someone like me who's just starting out? Where should I begin to place and focus into in terms of certification? What direction should I go in?
If a security focus is what you're interested in, get some very strong networking certifications. In fact, I could even see someone going to a manufacturer's like a Cisco or a Juniper or a switch manufacturer, get a very good switching and routing understanding, get those certifications. And many of those companies also have a security certification, or maybe you go to a third-party security company that all they do is security and you get some certifications from them. I think the networking piece will position you well for an entry-level position in the security group. But I also think knowing a single manufacturer's security or a single manufacturer's technology, like a firewall company, or I'll even say a virtualization like VMware certifications, are actually pretty valuable to have in the security department these days. So that's where I would focus your efforts, is go down the road of getting the security, getting the networking down, and then making the jumps into security. Once you get into a security group, and maybe even in a networking group in some areas, there is a bleed over between the two. So you'll find yourself doing more security whether you realize it or not.
I see. And the very last question here.
Sure.
Now, versus the route of getting a 4-year degree. Now, I'll be honest with you, I am not trying to. Keep in mind, I have completed my bachelor's in a totally different
90 seconds.
And we're talking student loans up the anus here.
I understand. Yep.
Still paying that stuff back up. Do you find it necessary for going in a direction like that to pursue a 4-year degree versus just can a certification get you by just getting certified in these areas versus getting the whole going for the online degree, 4-year degree in cybersecurity?
I think folks that are moving from one part of the world, they're moving from one type of career to the other. You can hear the nice lady telling me that the phone lines are going to turn off. I'm not going to turn off, but the phone lines might. And if not, I'll answer this afterwards for you, Maurice. But the idea of someone who's already got a very good career in one particular area already has a lot of the skills required to move into another area. And in that particular case, I don't think a 4-year degree is going to give you very much. My world that I live in is technology. Today it's security focused, because as I said, it was also other types of technology through the years. My degree's in business. I went to get a 4-year degree and I got it in business. Now that helps me now with other things that I'm doing to a point, but it really didn't apply to anything I was doing with technology. Right out of school, I was trying to figure out installing printers and video and hard drive upgrades and memory upgrades and that type of thing. So I think that the 4-year degree helps you later on when you want to move up into management within a company. You would like to move up and do something else in an organization. Well, that's where your 4-year degree gives you a little bit more leverage. But for people that are moving, or in some cases, just trying to get into technology in general, I don't know that a 4-year degree is required to get your foot in the door. Some people look for it. Some employers look for a 4-year degree as a prerequisite, but they also say, or some experience that would at least give us a feel that you know what you're doing in that particular area.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Professor Messer. That was excellent breakdown. They answered all my questions.
Thanks for calling in, Maurice. Let us know how it goes.
Okay, thank you. You have a great day.
Thanks. Take care. It's a common story. I think we've heard Anthony, we've heard Maurice. You know, your people are moving and doing different things these days. I'm glad we caught you before the phone lines ended up. I get 2 hours, a 2-hour block on my call-ins, and that's when that happens. So we no longer can see those things. For the chat room, I do check my Facebook. I check my Google Mail. At the top of my website is a Contact Us link. If you put anything into that Contact Us link, it shows up on my phone. So that's one place where you can always catch me, is with the Contact Us at the very top. I want to thank everybody for joining us this month. Thanks for sticking in there. There was a lot going on. I didn't think I'd even be able to make it, and we ended up really getting all the way there to the end, surprisingly enough, and used up every minute of our call-in time. We'll have to do another one of these next month. What a great idea. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will indeed do this one again next month. Remember, next Saturday is our Network Plus study group. We'll do the same thing. And otherwise, we'll see you next month on the Professor Messer A+ study group.